Okay, welcome everyone to today's webinar, Unlocking Efficiency, IDS and BIM Model Checking. Now, this webinar is divided into two parts. The first part, we're talking about IDS, building smart, these standards, the data that we have in our models. And the second part is going to dive into the technical part of model checking. How do we import IDS into our workflow and how we check our models accordingly with Verify. Now, the second part is going to have also a live demo. So we're going to show you how we can work with IDS, how we import it to our models and check it accordingly. And of course, at the end of the session, there will be some time for Q&A. But before we start, there are some housekeeping rules, of course. You can use the chat section to ask your questions. At the end, as I mentioned, at the end of this session, there will be some time for Q&A. And of course, the recording will be emailed to the participants after the webinar. Okay, so without further ado, let me start by introducing the presenters for this session. So it's my pleasure first to introduce Rob Roof, who is the chair of buildingSMART Benelux chapter and the senior business developer for digital built environment at TNO. He's the co-chair for building domain at buildingSMART International, and of course, fellow at buildingSMART International. So I would like to welcome you, Rob, for this specific session. From our end, myself, Wat Turkiya, I'm the customer success manager of Verify here at Xinaps. I've been working in the AEC industry for a while now, and my expertise include like BIM model auditing, quality control, BIM standards and protocols, and CDE management. So that was it from my end to give you like a short introduction and brief you to this session. And now it's my pleasure to welcome Rob.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, of course, Bart, you will do the majority of the presentation, the big chunk. And I'm here only to introduce buildingSMART and, of course, IDS, where we are going to talk about. To start with, we are here at TNO in Delft. We are here in the predictive twin laboratorium. And you can't see it, but this is a really creative room. And we have some nice setup. This is to inspire our unit. This is to inspire TNO, and this is to inspire our clients and stakeholders. So you're welcome and feel free, whenever you're in Delft, to jump in. So that was it for TNO. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about buildingSMART International. And buildingSMART International is a non-profit organization. And we have our vision to create and maintain open, reliable digital standards. Pretty sure that most of you have already are a little bit familiar with buildingSMART, but we're really here to make a difference. We really want to help and enable the industry to improve productivity, sustainability, and profitability by open standards. We developed a strategic roadmap, and we do that in the bigger community. As you can see here, we started this roadmap, of course, it's going back a long time already, but we developed it now to 2027, where we want to reach an ecosystem with seamless integrated decision support. And we do that in delivering, you can see that on the left-hand side, development of tools and standards. So now we have current data standards. To discuss a little bit about IDS later. We do linking and extendability of data standards. So we are combining all those data standards. We are developing APIs towards that ecosystem. buildingSMART International is, like I said, a non-for-profit organization, and we have chapters all over the world. I think we have 30 something. It's really expanding a lot. And so we are organized by chapters. We work very closely together. Next month, we are having a chapter conference where we combine our activities and we share information with each other. As you can see, it's really global. For the Netherlands, we have stakeholders, and we are very glad that Xinaps recently joined us as a bronze stakeholder. Okay, buildingSMART International. See a lot of nice colors and logos, and we use a lot of abbreviations. And that is something maybe a little bit complex, but I want to guide you through them. Well, it all started with a great idea. We want to build, we want to construct something, but then we don't speak the same language, which is really confusing. So we need to have standards. Sometimes people are drawing that, okay, we started to develop standards. So one draws a facade, the other draws a floor plan. We try to combine those with each other, and then we had standards. 0.35 millimeter line. I learned to sketch by hand. Was something different than a 0.5 pen. Well, we had standards already in those days, and even the letter size on a big A0 or A1 were standardized. Then, okay, sometimes even those standards were interpreted not correct. So we decided to go digital. I really was there, and we brought the digitalization to the dropsman. And we thought that with becoming more digital, we could solve all those issues that we were challenging. And we got even smarter with digital. We could create some solar or some solar studies. We could cut buildings. So it was really getting further and further. And now we can automate tasks. We can do automated quantity takeoffs. We can do well, we can detect clashes in buildings. So it's really important. But it's not only about standardizing data, because when we have the same interpretation, automatic processing, and comparing and learning of the data, sometimes, even if it's standardized, we are not able to share that information with each other because we have proprietary file formats. Machine readable file formats. As you can see here, this is not readable by a human. So we think in buildingSMART that open standards are really important. To open files, share them with each other, to collaborate and create consensus, and of course, control your digital destiny, as we call it. That is, we don't want you to be locked in, vendor locked in. So you must be able to share your information with others, and you need to be able to choose another supplier and continue with your data. We call that Open BIM. Open BIM often relates to IFC, stands for Industry Foundation Classes. It's a sharing file format. But now we are here not to discuss about IFC, but we're here to discuss IDS, Information Delivery Specifications. And what I said is that we became smarter with digitalization. So what you see here on screen is not just geometry. It's not just lines. No, it actually combines data, non-graphical data, with graphical data. So here you can see, well, this is not a very big screen, but here you can see that it's well, it's a structural foundation. It's a pile cap. It's an IFC slab, so it has some properties. And even with that IFC, we can question, we can identify, we can create search queries. So here we filtered on that bridge, and we asked for all the IFC beams that are identified as IFC beams. So the properties are read and are shown here on screen. but we don't know exactly what we need to exchange information with each other. So, well, in the past, we saw people asking for, give me LOD 350. So level of development, level of detail, or I want to have an IFC with all the spaces. And we don't believe in that because it's not specific enough. But what is really specific is that every space must have a property, object type, with a value that needs to be any of. And then if we specify it, we can be very precise to require what we need in the IFC. For instance, according to the Dutch bouwbesluit, which is the Dutch building permit. How do we exchange that? Well, nowadays we do that often via Excel, create big schemas, but we can do that in an information delivery specification, machine readable format as well. So this is not only human readable, but it's machine readable format as well. And the software can interpret it, that information delivery specification. So from that information delivery specification, we get an IFC export, which we can then check again accordingly to the information delivery specification. For instance, here we have a building, and this is a real example. And here you see that this space should have a value accordingly the Dutch regulation permit. So it's Badruimtebergen. No, it's Dutch. So, but it needs to be one of those values. And on the left-hand side, you can see that we have 61 of those object types that are not according that value. So we have a problem. And the problem can be identified in, or, well, can be shared, and we will discuss that later, but that problem is somewhere here in that IFC file. This is IFC, machine readable, but human readable as well. Here we see an IFC space on line 295, which has the NVO. So that's the object type here. It's NVO, it's called lifeblood, but it's not according to those specifications. So we have the IDS, we defined what we want to have, we have the IFC, we checked according to the building permit, and then something happened. It was not correct, we need to share that information. And that space that we just saw need to have the object type according to the building permit requirement. And then we can say, well, you know, the one in the red on the ground floor, that's what we just saw, but that's not the way to do it. No, we are doing that in another way. We can say the specified one that failed the IDS check. We just did an IDS check with verified. And then, well, we can share that via email or via another way, but what is going to show that later on. So we have that here, we have that topic. Sometimes people are calling it issues, but I prefer to call it topics because it's not always an issue. It's just to share information. Here you can see in the description that the IFC space doesn't contain the name object type according to the IDS building permit. That's what we want to communicate. And how do we communicate it? We communicate it via BCF. It stands for BIM collaboration format. From the IFC, we check according to the IDS, and we create BCFs, which we can share with people that can need to alter or modify it. After we did it, we can share that to an open CDE, to a common data environment. It says open CDE because that's a buildingSMART development. But of course, there are many common data environments on the market. And even Bart will exchange information with one later on. So I'm almost at the conclusion of my presentation. We are very happy that Xinaps joined us. And this is actually a screen copy of their website. And they say, we believe in open standards. So I welcome Xinaps as a new sponsor. And I will give the floor to you again. Right? Thank you very much. And questions later, right?
Okay, thank you very much, Rob, for these insights. That was really insightful to know more about IDS, especially from buildingSMART perspective, because most of the people now are just wondering, what is IDS? How do I implement it? So it was great to hear it from you. Now, everyone, in this part, I'm going to talk about Verified. It's our cloud-based model checker, which we consider the next generation of data validation and the next generation model checker. Now, Verified, what makes Verified different than the other tools is that it offers an advanced rule-based engine where you can create customizable data checks, rule checks, however you want to call it. So we can do clash checks. We can do also like the IDS, just like I'm going to show you in this session. Also, it has some smart algorithms, which helps in having a more, I would say, like open BIM processes. Okay. And at the same time, we still support like the closed BIM, I would say, process through like other file format. But mainly in this part, I'm going to show you how do we handle IFC files and how do we check them according to the IDS, the Information Delivery Specification. And of course, it has, of course, like a software as a service based automated design data validation system. Okay, now Verified offers an integrated workflow. And what I mean by integrated workflow is that first you start by designing, with a file format that you're having, Revit, IFC, DWG, you publish it, and then Verified comes into the picture as your model checker. So first, as an integrated platform, it integrates directly with your CDE. So whether you're using Autodesk CDEs, BIM 360, ACC, Dropbox, Trimble Connect, Procore, all these ones, okay, you can import projects into Verified, and then you can actually start validate and classify, just like I'm going to show you in a bit, of course, using an IDS file, and then you can report it to one of the issue trackers that we're connected to. So whether you're using, I'm not sure that you're using, I would say, BIM 360 issues, Procore issues, Trimble Connect issues, you can connect to these ones. Also, you can download the BCF file, which Rob just mentioned earlier. Of course, there are different ways to report files. You can do it in Excel, you can do it in CSV, you can just import it to a Power BI. But the most important thing is that we give you access to the data that you have in your models. Now, in this part, of course, I'm going to explain a bit about Open BIM Exchange through Verified. So what we do usually is that we import IFC models into Verified, and then we push a requirement to Verified through the IDS file to check and validate the elements that I have in my IFC model. And then I can export a BCF file. I can report it as an issue and indicate all the necessary information to fix this issue. On the other hand, we offer a more hybrid solution, okay? And that works by having Revit. You can also import that to Verified directly, not an IFC. You can do it through ACC, BIM 360, or whatever CDE that you're using, of course. You can still work with IFC. You import it to Verified, and Verified allows you to check IDS for both of the file formats. So you're not only working with IFC in this part, but you can also check Revit. And of course, you can sync it, you can create a BCF file, and then, or you can just sync it to an issue tracker that we're connected to fix this issue from the native files. Now, the features of Verified, I'm not gonna go like in detail through each one of them, but the ones that I'm gonna focus on for this webinar is first, the type of checks that we offer. So when you import an IDS file to Verified, Verified will immediately translate it into a property check. And then it will just create and classify all, it will create filters for you to classify all the elements accordingly. And this what helps us in creating the IDS checks, of course. Verified offers also a template portal where you can import templates, and the template portal can be used by our users, can be used by us. We can import templates over here to work with. The template can include the data views, filters, rule sets, and all of that. We also have an IDS template which our users can use in their projects. Now I'm gonna jump to the demo. Okay, I hope that everyone can see it. Regarding the questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll have a look at them at the end. Also, we have here our product manager, Christian, who is gonna check these questions at the end of the session. Okay, so now I'm sharing my screen on Verified. As you can see, I'm running on Google Chrome, and that's because Verified is a browser-based environment, which means you can access it from any browser. You can use Microsoft Edge, you can use Google Chrome, as I'm doing over here. You can use any browser over there. And then I'm just gonna log in with my regular account and go directly to my projects. Okay, what I'm gonna do for this webinar, this is the workflow that I'm gonna have. I'm gonna add a project from BIM 360. So I'm gonna go to add project from, choose Autodesk. I'm gonna link my account. And then I'm gonna locate through, because I'm connected to Autodesk now, so I can access Autodesk Construction Cloud and also BIM 360. But for this demo, I'm just gonna use my BIM 360 account with the DSGo IDS example project. I'm gonna add it, and then I'm just gonna type, okay, it took me directly to it, perfect. Okay, so let's start by going to models. So in the model browser, you can access all the models that you have. Of course, Verified is real-time synced with your CDE, which means you can always sync the latest updates. If you publish a new version of your IFC files, your Revit files, you'll instantly get a notification on Verified. So I have two models over here, and these are real-world projects. I'm going to start with this one. When I import it, it's going to load in the model set builder, which will then be directed to the 3D viewer. Okay. So these projects are according to mini BIM, which are designed to test out building permits. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to rules. And then I'm just going to, as you can see, here we have an option, load IDS file, where you can just import directly an IDS file that you have created. And I'm going to locate this building permit, open. And in seconds, Verified is going to translate all this machine readable code into a rule check, or actually like a rule set on Verified, which contains different rules. Now, these rules are according to the Dutch building standards. So as you can see, the first one is about the building story. We're gonna make sure that the names of our building stories, the levels that we have in the model, are complying with the Dutch building code. So I'm gonna run the whole rule set in this case. And there you go. We got the results over here. So as you can see, this specific project is complying with all these requirements. So we have like 4 main requirements over here. We specified them in the IDS file beforehand. So as you can see here, the building story needs to be according to a specific name. If I go to edit, you can see that Verified has made it in a more streamlined and like readable format. In the rule editor, you can see that first Verified has created a filter to navigate through all the building stories. And as you can see, we're collecting a building story from here through searching for the IFC entity. And of course, we've added another property to check, which is the name property. And this one, and these names that you can see over here, these are all according to the Dutch building code. Let us go to the next one, the IFC map conversion coordinates. So our model needs to have like these 3 properties, needs to be positioned in this manner. So we have east things, north things, and also the orthogonal height. As you can see, all of these actually exist in this model. Also, the IFC projected CRS needs to be any of these 2 values. If I go to edit for this rule check, you can see that I'm going through the name And I'm checking if it's either one of these ones. And since it's passed, and you can see the results also in the data viewer over here, you can see that all of these actually passed because they are complying with this building permit. The IFC spaces, on the other hand, if I go to edit, you can see these are the names that should be added to your model according to the Dutch building code. And this model is complying with all of these. Okay, let's test out the other model. I'll go here, just clear this one up. We'll load the other model. Okay, it's loading. There you go. So these models are designed for permit checking. If I go to my rules, as you can see, this is the IDS that I've already imported for the previous project. If you have like a newer IDS, you can still import a new one, but I'm just going to simply run this IDS check. Okay. Now in this model, you can see that we have some discrepancy. The first one, the IFC building story, we see that there is one level that is not named according to the building permit. If I go real quick and then just reapply these results, I can run it one more time. There you go. We have a failed entity over here. So if we go to the check, we go to edit. So the name of the IFC building story needs to be any of these ones. Now the issue that we're having on the 18th floor, 18e, but if we go to the IFC building, now this is correct. So it should be like correct. If I go real quick to 18 over here, so this IDS is for the Dutch building code, and you can see that it's only with one T in the IDS. So what actually Verify did is that it detected like some kind of an error in the original IDS file, okay? Because according to ILS, it's written with one T. So when I just import it to Verify, and as you can see, there is like one issue. The correct one over here, it says that it is an error. We can also like point all of these out. This is one. So like technically, I would say that we don't have any issue in the IFC building story. The same thing for IFC map conversion position, IFC projected CRS, they're all the same, but the IFC spaces over here, and these are the ones that we had in the slides earlier. As you can see, I have 61 errors, which means that all of these spaces are named incorrectly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this one. And you can see these spaces are named incorrectly. If I go real quick to edit, I can see that according to the building permit and the IDS file, these spaces needs to be named, like it needs to contain any of these names that I have over here in the rule editor. Okay. And if I go to my results and I just import the object type, the one that I'm checking with the IDS, save, you can see it says NBO. Now it needs to be, according to the building permit, the object type property. The object type property that we can see over here needs to be any of these ones, okay? But according to this specific model, we have the object type as NBO, and it's the same thing for all the 61 elements. Now, this is an issue, of course, and the way we can point it out would be by just creating a BCF file or creating an issue. We can sync it, and I'm going to show you how we can do all of this. One quick note, if you have like more questions on this, just drop them in the chat and then we will take a look at them. But now let me just select these elements. Now, of course, with the data viewer of verified, you can select the elements that you need. I can isolate them. For instance, I would like to point out these specific two spaces. So I'll go to the 3D viewer and then I'll just isolate them. I'll give it more context to see the exact location for this one. Okay. Now, the next part would be to create an issue, and I can do that by going to issues. And of course, if you would like to download a BCF file, then you will have to create your issues on verified issue tracking system. And that would be by creating an issue, and then at the end, download a BCF file. For this demo, I'm just going to sync it with BIM 360 issues to show you how we can have like one integrated workflow. So I'm just going to change the provider, choose BIM 360, and then link the project that I have, which is this one. Okay, I see that I already have one issue. If I go to my BIM 360 account real quick, you can see that verified is real-time synced, which means that verified is reading the issues that I'm having on BIM 360. If I make any updates on BIM 360 or verified, you will see it on any of the platforms. So we're going to create a new issue from here, make a couple of screenshots, which of course will be saved as viewpoints. So this is like one of the features of verified. Of course, I'm going to give it all the other entries, the requirement change, status, I'm going to say this is open, and the title. So space is not named according to the IDS. And then I'm just going to assign it to like a random person from the people who are working on BIM 360. You can give it the due date, of course. And the same thing for BCF. So we just give all these information, and at the end, you will have a small button where you can download the BCF file. And the owner is just the demo account. I'll click on save. And now the issue will be directed to BIM 360 because it's real-time synced. As you can see, now I have a new issue. If I go to my BIM 360 account, and then I just reload my issue tracker, you will see I have the issue over here. So this is a requirement change. The space is not named according to the IDS. If I just scroll down, you can see the screenshots that are coming from verified. So this is how we can have an integrated workflow. Of course, you can replace all of this by just download the BCF file, and then you can go to your native files to fix the issues, of course. So if you'd like to know more about buildingSMART and their processes, their recommendations, feel free to reach out to Rob Roof on his emails. So you can find his emails on the screen. Also, like every once in a while, we collaborate with different professionals, similar to such as Rob, of course, where we post new articles about digital transformation, model checking, BIM, and we've recently released a new blog with one of our partners. You can access the blog using the link that's going to be dropped in the chat. Also, if you would like to know more about verified and how we conduct an efficient model checking process, feel free to reach out to me via my email, word@xinaps.com. Also, we can connect on LinkedIn and address your model checking issues. You can sign up for a demo. Also, if you would like to have a personalized session, 30-minute session, you can just sign up for a demo, and the link will be dropped also in the chat. Now we're going to start the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat, and then we can take it over from there. So like I have first like a couple of questions regarding, of course, IDS. IDS is quite interesting topic, and it's actually a hot topic at the moment, especially for people who are working with IFC.
Yeah.
So as like from buildingSMART perspective, what are some of the common challenges that you see that are faced by professionals who would like to implement IDS in their workflows?
Okay, yeah. Challenges. Well, first you need to know how to create one.
This is a very
Yeah, so I think that with this webinar, people are getting more informed about what the capabilities are. But now, of course, you need to know how to create it. And I think one of the challenges is it can be a little bit complex.
Yeah.
So to solve that, I think you need a good training.
Mm-hmm.
So not only software-wise, but as well with the fundamentals.
Even though it was meant as like machine readable, and also like we can read it as well, but
sure.
still,
Yeah.
it's a complex process.
I saw one of the I saw in the chat. I saw a question coming. Who is responsible for creating the IDS? And I thought it was an excellent question because it can be an owner, can be a contractor, it can be anybody who wants to receive information according to specific specifications.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really black or white who's going to do an IDS. And I think that you show that you can add more IDS to verify the software. So, or the IFC, so the models. So I think that to know the complexity, to understand what you can ask and how you can implement it, that's one of the challenges.
Indeed. No, this is a very interesting approach on the IDS implementation because, as I told you, it's a hot topic, it's a trendy topic, but at the same time, more people are finding difficulties when working with it. So what advice would you give like to organization looking to start implementing IDS? Is it the training? Is it the tools? Like, what do you think about this?
Well, to start with IDS, okay, so the basics. So really get the training, hire the right people to implement it, follow up on the developments because it's going extremely fast.
Indeed.
So in a couple of months ago, nobody had no clue what to do, and now even if I look in the Benelux, so we have very nice development going on coming from Luxembourg. So BIM-IDS.eu. Here in the Netherlands, we have the ILS configurator. So start to take a look at that. The ILS configurator, especially in the Netherlands, is now going towards the second or the next phase, where they can even produce an IDS.
Yeah.
So I think that is, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, indeed. As I told you, like IDS, it's a very interesting topic at the moment. So like handling it, there are different ways to do that, of course, and yeah, it's the future, and you know the industry is rapidly changing. Yeah, so in a snap of a finger, you will just find like some new approaches.
There's another question whether if IDS is open source, can it be read by all model checking software types?
I think this one.
Oh yeah, well, open source. I think there's a difference between open source and open data structures. So we defined the how to create one. We described what an IDS should look like. But of course, the software that creates one is not always open source. It can be, there is open source software available, but an IDS should be read by any software that supports IDS.
I mean, that's the whole concept.
That's the whole concept. Yeah.
Indeed.
So I think it's a really good question, but it's the same with IFC. And still we see interpretation differences in the software. So you asked me the challenges, and I think it's really a challenge to pick the right tools as well.
Indeed. So it's all about also the right tools.
Yes, actually what I know from as a software party, also working with other software parties together on making the IDS support for the Dutch building permit possible, is that actually there's interest in the different software companies in supporting IDS. There's a very broad adoption, and it is relatively easy for developers to implement. Check for it. But then every software party, they basically want to get onto the bandwagon, but then with their own strengths. Like our strengths is very much that you can actually use it in an Autodesk workflow, for example. You can see
you can check Revit file.
You can extend them with looking for the Revit elements, for the Revit counterpart of the IFC entities, and very quickly you can actually make your modelers use the IDS check on Revit files. Whereas other softwares then may
Yes, and I think also like one good thing.
I'm agnostic.
Yes, and actually like one good thing about importing IDS to verify is that, as you can see, you can edit it. So you don't need to go back to the original IDS file and reproduce a new one, import a new code. It might be the case that some people are not just familiar with codes. So on verified, what you can do simply, you can just add a new filter, You can just modify the existing filter, add a new rule if you want to it, and you can check it according to your own requirement.
Yes, and there's one more from actually from the same person.
Yeah.
Whether it's possible to set classifications or property sets of information or specific blocks of information and create a check. With I think that this means with IDS. So what is the scope of IDS? Which kind of checks can you do with it?
So it's mainly like for like requirements. The type of checks that you have mainly like the properties, the attributes that you have in your models. Okay. Like whether you have like a specific value, if you have like a list of values and you would like to check it accordingly, you can do that with an IDS file. Yes, you can import all of this in your IDS, then you can just import it to your model checker, and then you can validate the entities that you have within your model. So it could be because in the IDS itself, there is like requirements, there are applicabilities, there are different parts where you can just import your checks.
If I interpret the question, try to process it, but of course you don't need to have an IDS for the whole model. You can limit it to, okay, for instance, building blocks, or
Yes.
to see if all the doors have a swing direction, something like that. Yeah, that can be very, very specific.
Yes, so it depends on the requirements of the projects as well. Because like, for instance, the use case that we had over here was like the Dutch building permit.
We should move here. Because
the camera was not, okay. Sorry, can you see me, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I hope that you heard what I was saying, but yeah, it depends on the project requirements, of course.
Christian has not.
Yeah.
There's one more question. It's possible to create rule sets that compare specific attributes or properties between different versions of an IMC.
This is a very interesting question. Now on verified, it's a model checker, of course. So these types of checks needs to be there. What you can do at the moment is that you can check these attributes, these parameters for one version of the model. Christian.
In the data view, you could actually group according to the attribute and according to the model version. So you could have like in two different rows, one on top of the other, the values of the two different files.
Yeah. So you can actually do that from the data viewer in that case, and I will do that by just simply choose the model version and then group it accordingly, right? And then I get my results.
Yeah.
And I assume that would be also accessible because you can export that into Excel and CSV.
Indeed.
You can do it in the next webinar.
This is an interesting one. Perfect. Any further questions?
No.
Let me thank you very much, Rob,
Thank
for
you
your
as well.
time today. And thank you for TNO to give us this opportunity to do this interesting webinar. Just feel free to reach out through the links that we shared with you guys. And we hope that we can see you in other events in the future. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening ahead.